Imagine getting a water bill for $1,500. What do you do next? Well, you better call Harry. This is Behind the Investigation with Atlanta News First Investigates. I'm investigative reporter Sierra Cummings, and I've got the Better Call Harry. Hey, Harry, how you doing?
Hi, Sierra. How are you?
This is such a story with personality, as one of our producers, Tim, just told me. You walk into this house, and it's one of the cleanest homes you've ever been in, yet it's got this huge problem.
Well, I think the point that we were trying to make, and you'll see in the story, is that you've got a case of like the perfect tenant
hmm
here.
Always
And
paying the rent.
always paying the rent on time, like actually loves the house. The
Mhm.
house is you'll see all this in a moment. But it was like who wouldn't want this person, you know, to be their tenant? And yet when these water bills start going up, and it was over a couple of months,
Mhm.
she reports it, but I mean, she basically said that she got bounced around like a ping pong ball because she would go to her management company that manages the property where she's living, and then there's the water department, and then a lot of tenants or a lot of renters know this. Sometimes there's a billing service, an in between company that handles everything, and you get a bill from them. So who do you answer to? And that's where this story went. And then when we started checking into the corporate property management company, which is Mind, which is spelled MYND, but pronounced Mind, we started seeing a pattern of complaints, and we went straight to the BBB. At Nina Walker's house, yes, you really have to take off your shoes. I have to say, this is the cleanest home I have ever been in. Every room is spotless perfection. Seriously, you could eat off the floor.
But this is the, the kitchen.
This is the tour of the kitchen with the cleanest counters I've ever seen. The point is, what landlord wouldn't want Nina and her husband Hakeem as tenants? So this is my other favorite part of your place. See the little Hakeem and Nina on the... That is just so cute. They pay rent on time and love the house, except for the toilets. Nina says 2 toilets were silently leaking. The next bill was a shocker. The water jumped from the usual $50 to $436, and the sewer charge jumped to $390. So you get this bill, and were you on it? Like, did you call them immediately?
Yes, soon as I retrieved the bill from my email, I called this company called Conservice. They are the ones responsible for the utility bills.
The next bill added nearly $700.
If you add those 2 bills up, it's close to $1,500.
How much?
It will be close to $1,500.
Let me ask that again. How much?
Yes, close to $1,500. There's some piece under here.
Nina says for 2 months, she went back and forth with Mind Property Management, the billing company, and even with the county water department, but couldn't get a clear answer. She agreed to pay $800, but started getting alerts to pay the balance. So on top of your monthly rent, they want you to pay $1,500 with the idea that you'll get that back?
In a credit, not even a refund, a credit.
Atlanta News First Investigates contacted Mind 4 times and got crickets. We've gotten complaints from other tenants in Atlanta, and then we checked with the Better Business Bureau. They logged 300 complaints over the last 3 years.
I can't say that they're a bad company. Because this is the only issue that we have. It's just people in places that can do something, that won't do something.
By the way, after maintenance fixed 2 toilets, the third one started leaking in the master. But it must have been something we said, because a few days after contacting Mind, a representative called and said the Walkers will not be responsible for that $1,500 bill. The perfect response for the perfect tenant. I'm willing to bet that your refrigerator is also organized if I were to open it. Am I correct? Can I just peek? I mean, it's just like, it's just, oh, this looks good. All right. All right.
Wow, Harry, what an interesting story. I'm curious, what does Mind have to say about all of this?
That's a good question, because we do our homework and we make sure we cross our T's and dot our I's before we go on television or put out any report where we make an allegation that something is not being done properly. So I emailed and found out the name of the person that got in touch with her after the story ran, who called her and said, no, you won't be responsible for the bill. And then found out who mine's parent company is and emailed their PR team. Never heard a word. Meanwhile, she's getting more texts from mine saying, hey, reminder, you need to pay this bill, which she says they told her she doesn't have to pay. So she's still kind of stuck, and we're going to follow up on this. And then there's another case that we also emailed them about, and it was about somebody who had a high utility bill for an electric bill. And it turns out that the person who installed the air conditioning system in their home forgot to connect one of the vents. And the AC was basically cooling the attic for 2 months. So that's why the electric bill went from an average $100 to over $600. And I have repeatedly contacted them about that and still no response. But I mean, that doesn't mean we're going to give up.
Yeah.
We're going to keep doing these stories.
Well, maybe you're watching and listening, and you're like, okay, mine doesn't manage my apartment complex, but I'm having a similar issue. And we know a lot of our audience, they're renters. So what's some takeaways for the people listening or watching?
If you're renting in an apartment complex, it's a little bit different than, you renting an actual house, because sometimes the home has the actual owner and then they hire the property
That makes
management
sense.
company. That is the case with mine, at least for the AC story we were talking about just a second ago. But when it comes to your apartment, what you have to do is, like anything else, you really want to see the place before you move in. If it's occupied and you don't get to see it until the day of, that can be an issue, number one. And number two, if you start getting bills, you have to act fast. You have to do it in writing, and you have to follow up and say, hey, what's going on here? I think I have a water leak, or I think I have a problem. Can you please have maintenance check, so that there is a record? And unfortunately, you just kind of have to keep fighting. This happened to us once before over a water bill, and they refused to make any changes. And then, of course, once we got involved, and we also pulled the history. That is something that you can do. Look at the history of where things are now and call the utility company and ask what it was, like for electric the same time last year. So, if you're getting a $600 electric bill, I told the person who wrote us, go back a year ago and look at June and July and pull those bills and see what they were. And there was a clear discrepancy. And then you can also, you can look at the chart and you can see where the spike is. So if you've done everything right, you've just got to keep fighting. One thing you don't want to do, the most important thing ever, do not withhold rent. Google the Georgia landlord tenant handbook. There is a section on there on repair and deduct, but it's really difficult. And the reason you don't want to withhold rent is because that gives them an opening to file for an eviction. Even if you fight it and you win, that eviction is still on your record. And they share this stuff, and it's almost like a credit report. When you go to rent something else, they're going to see that's there, and you're going to have to explain.
Very helpful recommendations. And that's why you've got the segment, Better Call Harry. Thanks so much, Harry.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to Behind the Investigation with Atlanta News First Investigates. For more on the story, go to atlantanewsfirst.com and click on the A&F Investigates tab. You can listen to more award-winning investigations wherever you get your podcast by searching Behind the Investigation with Atlanta News First. And tune in Sundays for an hour-long episode of Uncovered, where we highlight some of our biggest investigations that impact our communities.